EastFed Archives has adult language and violence and is not suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised. EastFed Archives is a Creative Typo entertainment production. If you enjoy this show, we invite you to support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Creative Typo. All levels of membership include ad-free listening, and our binge tier includes access to this complete season. Thank you for listening.
Chapter 11, Montana.
Hastings?
Yes, Emily?
I've been wondering. So, you mentioned that there are more types of hidden, right? Like, besides you, the Chronicler, September, the Guide, and me, the Anomaly. How many others are there?
Including the humans, there are 9 fully sentient species that the chroniclers have identified. Actually, I should clarify. The hunter has not been officially confirmed. Our research indicates that it is real based on the evidence at hand, but no one has confirmed existence through visual means. We are not certain visual confirmation is possible.
Would you be willing to tell me about them?
What would you like to know?
Well, what they're called, what they can do? Like, do they shoot different colored lines out of themselves? Or, just whatever you think is the important stuff to know about them?
The chroniclers have more information on some hidden compared to others, and I am not well studied in the finer details of the sentience. But I could give a high-level overview of each, if you wish.
Yes, I would really appreciate that.
I will start with the one I know the most intimately, the chroniclers. Chroniclers log the history of the world and are able to determine trends in socio-economical and political climates.
Yeah, I know that. You've told me that exact thing before.
Actually, September said that to you before. But it is part of our definition, for ease of conversation. I think it best to assume you know as little as possible about each topic. Do you not agree?
No, I do. Sorry.
As I was saying, much of the knowledge collected by the chroniclers is used for our own personal path of study. Some of it can be used for the betterment of humanity, but that does not happen as often as you would think.
Why not? It seems like the chroniclers would be incredibly helpful to the human race, as super knowledgeable advisors.
In the past, chroniclers worked with leaders, sultans, kings, queens, emperors, and religious figureheads. The statistical probability that a ruler will use our knowledge for personal gain or a destructive agenda is so high that it deters most chroniclers from taking advisory paths. Additionally, chroniclers cannot lie. This can put us in precarious positions when dealing with manipulative leaders.
About that, why can't chroniclers lie? That seems like a choice, Free will and all for sentient beings. But you make it sound like it's an impossibility.
It is not impossible. Sometimes we can give misinformation, but that is only if we believe it to be true.
Why, though?
It is simply the way we are. It is similar to asking why anomalies can see blue lines or why humans cannot use sonar. It is our grand design.
I guess that makes sense. So, where do the chroniclers keep all their research?
There are different places around the world, but the main location that I use is in Libya.
Is that where you're from?
What do you mean?
Is that where you were born?
No. Chroniclers are born of the blood mist. I apologize, but this is one topic that I will not expound on at this time.
Oh, okay.
What sentient would you like to hear about next?
What can you tell me about me?
Chicago, Illinois is often referred to as the Windy City, and for good reason. During the winter months, the freezing winds blown off of Lake Michigan are known to cut to the bone for those unfortunate enough to be caught outside. A citizen that has spent their entire life in Chicago is likely to complain about such weather with practiced disdain. Emily Swanson was not one such complainer. The weather was what it was, and she didn't see how grumbling made it any better. With that in mind, she smiled as Marcus Baker, bundled in a ridiculously puffy coat and snow pants, approached while grumbling about the weather. The two were no longer in Chicago, the city where they had both lived since childhood. They were now on a ranch in the middle of upstate nowhere, Montana. It had been 6 months since they escaped Chicago and the Contra. Winter had fully set in, and if you believed Marcus, this was officially the coldest place on Earth. November in Montana was by no means warm, but Emily didn't feel like it was that much colder than Chicago. She barely noticed. In fact, while Marcus wore an entire winter wardrobe all on his own, Emily simply wore blue jeans with a long-sleeve shirt and jacket. Marcus really did look ridiculous. Emily looked over Marcus's left shoulder and found September and Hastings chatting in the distance. The guide and chronicler were somewhere between 400 to 500 yards away from her. This property was one of several that September owned. He and Hastings were back near the house trying to maintain a cautionary distance. Emily had learned that while she could not directly push her powers on the two of them, the chaos around her could definitely impact them. There was no reason to risk harm on them. She gave the two men a quick wave and then turned her back to them. Excitement filled her stomach with butterflies. Today was finally the day. Emily was tired of lounging around the house doing nothing but waiting. Today, she got to use her powers.
How are you feeling?
Fine.
Fine.
Okay, more than fine. I'm excited that we finally get to test something big.
Me too. Although, I don't think Hastings and September share our enthusiasm.
That's fine. This isn't about them. They can figure their stuff out on their own. This is about us figuring out how our powers work.
All right. Do you see anything yet?
No. Do you?
No, but I don't think I'm supposed to.
Are you certain it'll happen today?
Yeah, I'm very certain. It should happen any minute now. Just keep an eye out.
Okay. What did you see in your vision?
Again? Alright. I saw the SUV get all twisted and warped. Then a giant head that looks a bit like you came up from the ground and ate the car. Then the car exploded, and giant head Emily pulled it back into the ground to eat it.
I know Harp said that we were fortunate to have such clear visions from you, but they are so weird, Marcus.
Really weird.
You're getting better at seeing them, too. You had this one 2 days ago, right?
Yeah, I've been trying to force myself to have the visions. It's strange, but meditating helps. Yeah. I never thought I would be someone that meditates.
Why not?
Because meditating is for hippies and weirdos.
No, it isn't. Meditation's for everyone. Besides, you're not fooling anyone. You are definitely a weirdo.
Alright, fair. I guess you're right about that.
I'm definitely right. How many other harbingers do you know?
Good point. Aren't you cold? It's freezing out here.
A little, I guess.
Just a little?
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Okay, you're the weirdo.
Probably. I'm just glad to be out of the house, honestly. It was stifling in there.
You do know, we could have gone outside at any point.
That isn't what I mean. I'm glad to be doing something. I feel like we've been sitting around just waiting for the next big disaster. And in the middle of absolutely... I almost said backwater podunk, but even that sounds like it has more going on than where we are. What is more secluded than a backwater podunk? Because that's where we are.
I thought you liked being out in the country.
Sure, at first, but now I just feel trapped here.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah?
Yeah. At least when we figure this out, you can go home. I'm a wanted criminal. I don't think I can ever go home.
Oh. I'm sorry, Marcus.
It's fine.
It's really not. None of this is fine. But we'll figure it out together. I promise.
All right. God, I'm freezing.
It's not that bad.
It's awful.
You're so whiny.
It's practically the Arctic.
The Arctic? This isn't even Canada.
I think Canada is a myth. We've actually made it to the Arctic, and we are going to freeze to death.
Wait.
What?
It's happening.
A thin blue line began to form from the center of Marcus's chest and attach itself to Emily. Unlike other humans, this blue line did not drain energy away from Marcus, nor could Emily manipulate the blue line in any way. The line seemed to act as a marker, showing her Marcus was nearby. Emily attributed this limitation to the fact that Marcus was indeed a harbinger. Her harbinger. Similarly, a green line quickly spanned the distance between Hastings and herself, just as an orange line connected her to September. Green for chronicler, orange for guides. Dim pink lines sprouted across the landscape, connecting her to the snow-covered foliage. With some effort, Emily was able to manipulate these lines, pushing and pulling the life force from each one. Finally, a few sharp red points darted toward her chest, indicating that there were wildlife or animals nearby. Hastings had told her that there were no records in the ISPET archives that spoke about multicolored ISPET lines. Whether the lack of information regarding the multicolored line was because Emily was unique, the archives were missing data, or they were simply another symptom of the chaos was yet to be determined. Nonetheless, it felt good to feel all of the surrounding energy pour into Emily's ISPET well. She felt fully alive, as if she had been sleeping for the last 6 months, and finally awoke. She pushed outward with her senses, feeling for the chaos event that was meant to eat the car. The visions Marcus had were never literal, so a giant Emily head was not likely to rise out of the earth. But it was chaos, so maybe it would. In his first vision, Marcus had seen Emily carrying a comically large gun that she had used to shoot up a bank. Obviously, that never happened, but it did leave Emily wondering how a giant head would translate into the real world. Marcus took an uneasy step toward Emily. Because he was her harbinger, her ISPET would not harm him, but she could feel his tension and nervousness through their connecting blue line. She couldn't fault him for his concerns. He couldn't see or feel the ISPET like she could. And could she ever? She was bubbling with energy. Behind her, past September and Hastings, beyond the ranch house, on the far side of the property, the SUV sat, waiting to be swallowed. Emily didn't turn around to face that direction, but instead closed her eyes and grabbed hold of the chaos that formed there. Unlike the lines, she could not push in this magnitude. She could only redirect the chaos. So that's what she did. With as much control and focus as she could muster, Emily pulled the ISPET event from over 500 yards away and brought it to her chest, where she attempted to hold it in place until she could feel it stabilize. She wanted to dissolve the event or possibly cancel it out. She wanted to shove the event into her ISPET well to use at a later time. Honestly, she simply wanted to do something that was more than chaos and destruction. If she could just hold on. It snapped. The event surged forward in a cone, with the peak starting on the ground just before her and spanning out for hundreds of yards. The snow melted. The plants that hid beneath the snow wilted and turned black. The water in the soil burned away, and the earth beneath the area of the cone dropped several inches. Emily opened her eyes to see the destruction that spiraled out before her. Her shoulders slumped as the lines of Isfet began to wink out. She let out a heavy sigh and then looked to Marcus.
Well... fuck.
"472 yards away from Emily and her destruction, September watched as the earth sank several inches and the snow melted in front of Emily. As she turned and began to make her way back to the house, September looked to Hastings, who was scrawling furiously into one of his many journals.
That did not appear to go well.
I disagree. This is the biggest event we have seen since we have arrived, and Emily appears to have saved the SUV.
Hastings, look at her. I can see it in her posture as she is coming back. She's defeated.
She looks fine to me, but you would know best.
You barely looked up from your journal. She's not okay. None of us are okay.
I'm okay.
You're obsessed.
September, what is bothering you?
Everything is bothering me. Her Isfet is bothering me. Learning about harbingers is bothering me. The Contra is bothering me. The fact that none of this is bothering you is bothering me.
September, this is what we planned. Find an ideal anomaly candidate, specifically one that is strong with Isfet, then study her to see if there is any way to save anomalies instead of killing them. We are successfully implementing our plan.
I know. I built this plan.
As a guide, you were the best equipped to do so. So why is there concern now?
After everything that happened in Chicago, I am no longer certain that our plan is the best course of action. So far, all of my attempts to guide our group have been disrupted, presumably by her Isfet. I'm not certain that I can function at full capacity when I'm near her.
Interesting. Do you feel a difference in a physical sense or in your emotional state?
Knock it off, Hastings. I'm not your test subject. I am hindering this process. I think it's time we move on to the next phase.
Already? But there is still so much I can learn from this phase. I could be missing key data sets during these early evolutions of Emily's Isfet, and I could not possibly entrust Marcus to document these events. He's not the brightest of humans.
You have enough information to recognize that the Isfet archives are lacking content. Whether that's by incompetence or design is what we need to learn next.
But September...
Hastings, please trust me on this. We cannot stay here with her.
You're suggesting that we leave her here? With Marcus, unprotected.
Emily is an anomaly. It's not as if she's powerless.
I understand that she is not powerless, but she is being hunted by the Contra. She might be hunted by other guides and chroniclers. Marcus is a wanted criminal. It's very risky to leave them alone.
They are not our responsibility. We need to move forward.
I will do as you suggest. You are the guide, and I will trust your instincts. But I really do not want to go.
Go where?
Emily, I didn't hear you approach.
You two seem pretty caught up in the conversation.
How did it go?
I couldn't hold the Isfet event for very long. I thought I could do better.
Was the event positioned on you, or were you able to pull it from the driveway out to where you stood?
I was able to pull it and place it, but I wasn't able to hold it, if that makes sense.
Fascinating.
How do you feel?
Frustrated, tired, empty.
You did great. The fact that you were able to move it that far means that you can control where an event happens. That alone could save lives.
Yeah, I guess.
Marcus, could you please repeat the vision that you had to forewarn you about this event?
Hastings, I already told you twice. Giant Emily head eats our only source of transportation. Got it?
Yes. Thank you.
You still didn't answer my question. Where are you two going?
We need to check in with the chroniclers. We've been out of touch for a while now, and we need to keep up appearances.
So, you're leaving us here?
Only for a month or so. We will leave a credit card here for you to make purchases with. Groceries and other necessities can be delivered. You'll be fine.
And what if something bad happens?
Marcus, it's fine. We don't need them here to babysit us. We'll be perfectly fine on our own.
Emily.
No, seriously. We're good.
Okay. We will be leaving for Libya first thing tomorrow morning.
Detective George Bullard tapped the folder on his desk with a heavy metal pen and let out an exasperated sigh. The folder, labeled Marcus Baker, was worn with creases and coffee stains. George didn't even have the willpower to open the folder. Instead, he let it sit in the middle of his desk, separate from a stack of similar folders. The escaped suspect, Marcus Baker, had been missing for over 6 months now, and George hadn't had one single lead come through. The kid had been tagged on the FBI watch list and had very likely left the city, removing him from George's jurisdiction. Either one of those facts would have meant George was off the case, but his captain had allowed him to keep working the file, at least until today. He couldn't fault his captain for pulling him off the Baker case. The other cases that were assigned to him were starting to pile up. If George were in his captain's shoes, he would have pulled himself off months ago. That didn't stop the feelings of frustration that plagued the detective. It was not as if this were the first case of his to go cold. He had been a detective for decades now. Plenty of cases had gone cold. It wasn't the fact that the kid had escaped. George had seen plenty of guilty parties walk free over the years. No. It was likely the fact that the only reason Marcus had escaped was because George had let him. The day the fuel truck slammed into the police station, George had taken a gamble and had pulled Marcus out of the interrogation room. That gamble did not pay off, and George soon found out that the kid had escaped, likely with Emily Swanson. Luckily, the explosion had knocked the power out in the station, so the cameras were offline when George accidentally let Marcus escape. When George explained to his captain what had happened, the captain swept it under the rug, saying, "No film, no proof. Get back to work." George did just that. He worked his ass off, but to no avail. The kid was gone. Emily was gone. But something about this case and this damn folder just irked him. Detective Davis sat at the desk opposite George.
Hey, what you working on?
Nothing. It's the Baker folder. Cap told me to file it away.
I'm sorry, Bullard. I know how much you wanted that one.
Yeah, well, shit happens, I guess.
You got something else you can work on today?
Martinez folder needs some follow-up. We can head back over there and see if anyone's home.
Can we do that after lunch? I got a shit ton of paperwork to catch up on, and I'm kind of hungover, honestly.
Big night?
Nah, I just was watching the game with some friends. I threw back a few too many. Honestly, I'm just getting too old to be drinking like that on a work night.
I feel you there.
Hey, it looks like your next appointment's in.
Ah, shit. I forgot they were coming.
You know, I can sit in on it if you need me to.
Nah, I got it. Work on your paperwork. Maybe grab a V8 or something to clear your head.
A V8? And here I thought I was the old one.
Shut up. I'll be back in a bit. Sam? Amber?
Detective Bullard, how are you?
Good, good. How's the coffee shop?
It's doing well. Thanks for asking.
Detective, have there been any updates on Emily's case?
Look, guys, it's like I told you before. I'm not a missing persons detective. I'm homicide.
You said you would keep us up to date.
I said I'd keep an eye on the case. There haven't been any new developments.
Is anyone even working the case?
Amber, we talked about this. Flies and honey, remember?
Sorry.
Detective, we are worried about our friend. It's really not like Emily to do this. We think something bad has happened to her.
Look, I know you both are worried about Emily, and you both seem like good friends for it, but you have to see things from the department's perspective. Missing persons is not even certain that she's missing.
What?
That's ridiculous.
No, listen. Emily is an adult. She came to both of you on the morning that she disappeared and said she was leaving. Hell, Sam, you have her cat. Now, does that sound like a missing person to you?
Yes, it does. That's why we're here. Again.
Detective, we told you even back then that we thought she was in danger. Something was definitely wrong, and she wouldn't or couldn't tell us. I mean, Emily is not the disappear off the grid type of person.
And what about these September and Hastings characters? They disappeared the same day. Not to mention your Marcus Baker fugitive. 4 people go missing all at the same time, and you want us to believe that she's out for a 6-month vacation? Bullshit.
Flies and honey. Flies and honey, Amber. He's not going to help us if we are assholes.
No, it's been 6 months, and the police have done nothing. This whole department is useless.
Amber, Sam, please. I know you're worried and frustrated, I promise you. I understand where you're coming from. Again, I'm a homicide detective, not missing persons. But listen, I'll follow up with that team and see where we sit and if there's anything I can help with. Look, I like Emily. She seems like a sweet kid, and you both seem like great friends. I promise I'll keep looking for her, okay?
Thank you, Detective.
Now, can you two promise me something? And we're getting close to the holidays. Thanksgiving's right around the corner, and people start missing their friends and family around this time of year. And if for any reason whatsoever Emily reaches out to you, you will contact me and let me know immediately. She's a lot more likely to contact you than she is me, and if she really is in some sort of danger, I want to be able to help her. Can you do that for me?
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you. Now, is there anything else I can do for you?
Yeah, a little off topic, but do you know anything about building code stuff? The apartment above me has had a leak for a couple of weeks now, and the landlord refuses to take care of it. I think it's a bathtub or something.
Amber, that's not my department. I'm a
homicide detective. Yeah, we got it.
Emily Swanson is voiced by Tisha Zang. Hastings is voiced by Adam Culbertson. Marcus Baker is voiced by Nico Rodriguez. September is voiced by Richard Collins. Detective George Bullard is voiced by Anthony Kinney. Detective Davis is voiced by Glenn Michael Saxton. Sam is voiced by Kris Barsanti. Amber Lang is voiced by Nari Kwak. And narrated by Michael Cole. Ispet Archives was written by Nico Rodriguez in collaboration with Tisha Zang. Ispet Archives is a Creative Typo Entertainment production. Find out more about our show at www.creativetypo.com.
A very special thank you to our executive producers from Patreon, Nick Mead and Patrick T. Arsenal.